This CEO's got talent. He's funny, entertaining, and I'm positive at some point you would have spent your free time watching his content.
You guessed it right. We're talking about the OG legend, Atul Khatri. Yes, this is our Gen Z language. Stand-up comedian, YouTuber, content creator, and a cool dad, and many more.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Atul. We are so in awe of your content. We relate, we laugh, and we can't wait to get to know the person behind this force.
Thank you, Anushka. Thank you, Anupam, for this opportunity. Feels good to connect to all you young kids, the millennials, as you guys yourself call yourself. But yeah, I understand what OG means. So yeah, it means
Great.
old grandpa, maybe.
Yes, we'll change it to that now. Great. So let's get started. This is a question I've been meaning to ask you for a very long time. What's the reason for ordering soup one by two, even when eating alone?
So actually, this concept of one by two soup always got me. In fact, my first set, which I did ever on stand up, my first ever open mic, which I did back in 2012, I spoke about this one by two. How as kids we used to go to, with my parents, we used to go with their children. Like we had a big group, and we used to go to this gymkhana in Bombay called NSCA. That's the National Sports Club of India. But for us Sindhis, that's the National Sindhi Club of India. And there, as kids, we used to order our own individual soup. Then the waiter used to take our order, go to the head of the table, and there used to be this wicked Sindhi aunt used to say, "Pagal ho gaya, bacha log itna soup piega, ek kaam karo, cancel karo, make it 3 by 13." Okay. And so that's where this concept of one by two soup really like struck me, like how in India we can go confidently to any restaurant and do 1 by 2, 2 by 3, 3 by 5, any equation you get. The restaurant is basically serving you that. I think I say that the chef is basically not a cook; he's like a computer genius, sitting with calculators and supercomputers inside the kitchen, just calculating this 3 by 5, 3 by 13, 4 by 18, all these weird mathematical equations. So I think that's this one by two soup is so Indian to such an extent that I remember once I went to New Jersey for a show, and there they took me to this Indian Chinese restaurant, and they said, "Sir, here in this soup you can, in this place you can order 1 by 2. They allow it. Rest of America nobody allows 1 by 2. Only here they allow it." So I think it's so unique to India. So I just love that name 1 by 2, and it's my handle for my Instagram, for my Twitter, and a lot of other things. Yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely.
For sure. I mean, I know for me as well, it's a foreign concept. When I went to India, the first time I didn't even know what was going on. I was a little confused until I saw that, okay, there were miraculously 4 bowls of for soup, even though we only ordered 2. And then
Yeah.
it made sense. Okay, economics.
And actually, when you
Yeah.
order 1 by 2, you don't get like half. You get like 1.2, 1.25.
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting your bang for your buck for sure.
Exactly.
And it's always perfect. Like it's I guess every like all Indians are good at maths, so that's why. So
Yeah. And the thing is, you actually sometimes you don't want to have the entire soup. You just want to
mhm.
like get, and this gives you like 70% at 0.5 value. So I think that's like a good thing.
For sure. So yeah, moving on to the next question, which is so there's this thing called comedian's block. So do you feel pressurized to be funny even in normal life conversation?
No, but what happens is, the funny automatically comes in, to be very honest with you.
Hmm.
We comedians are constantly thinking funny. If you and me will look at one single same object, usually a comedian will look at, some crazy angle to it which you never thought about. So sometimes when people like not the new, like not like the millennials and new people, like sometimes when you encounter, some old uncle or auntie and they'll say, "Acha, beta, tum comedy karte ho. कुछ joke सुना दो." So it's like that. So they feel like how they can ask a singer के दो गाने दो शब्द गा दो. They feel like comedian also they can this. But actually most comedians are very very serious people in real life, and they're very say a lot of them are introverts, so they don't like to go out. So they use the stage as a medium to basically get out. But yeah, I think, but most comedians have and after many I would say years of practice, we can get the funny out on the spot without many people not realizing it. Yeah, it'll be
For
difficult for a lot of other people. Yeah.
sure.
For sure.
Definitely. I'm actually curious. Has it ever happened that you've cracked a joke and the person in front of you just didn't get it?
Oh, so many times. So usually what happens is we comedians whenever we write material, it sounds funny to us, but it may not be funny to you guys, to the audience. And
Mhm.
so we go for these open mic nights where, it's basically a night where, usually on a Monday or a Tuesday where or new comedy night where new material or new stuff night where the audience knows that they're paying a little less money, and people are coming in trying their jokes for the first time. And it has happened so many times that you found it funny, but the audience just doesn't relate to it. But it's because you've not maybe written it properly. You can rewrite the same joke. We don't throw it off immediately. We will use it. We will put in the cold storage and get it back again when maybe we know how to probably phrase it properly. One, the joke writing is such a difficult process that one word here or there can make a difference between people laughing or not laughing. Just one word. I'm not joking. So
Yeah.
so that's what makes this craft so exciting. And I think comedians across the board have had these instances where jokes don't work. Yeah, sometimes the audience doesn't connect to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So my personal favorite stand-up of yours was When Your Child Turns 18, because when I watched it, I was nearing that age and I related to it big time. But my question is not so much for you, it's more about your kids. Did your kids hear that? And if they did, what was their reaction to it?
Actually, now my kid, like my elder daughter is now 26, my younger daughter is 23, 24. Shit, I don't know the age also. So I think they're in that range. Okay. So when I made them, and this is actually, see, a lot of stand-up comedy, what we do is based on true life experiences. We share our experience, and obviously we do exaggerate. We take the creative liberty to basically expand it, but most of it actually happened. I used to honestly dread those calls, or that day in the evening when I would come back from work and my daughter said, Papa, at 12 o'clock I have to go for my best friend's, birthday party. And I should say, why the hell don't you wish them on the phone? You know, full day you all are connected to each other on the phone. No, 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 she'll feel happy if I go there exactly at 12 o'clock. But there's an entire process which goes behind taking a child at 12 o'clock. And as I said, you see only fathers, no mothers, over there. And so, yeah, but what I do is I actually usually, whenever I write a new set, I bounce them with my daughters,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
because just to get an initial feedback. Then finally, whether I'll keep the joke or not keep the joke, because I test the joke across different audiences, then only I decide whether to keep it or drop it. But most of the times, they are my first sounding board. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So everyone has their own highs and their own lows. So what was the most difficult moment in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Uh, in my comedy career, I mean, really, they have not been very. See, I'll tell you what. So first of all, I have done 25 years of my corporate life. I've seen 25 years of actual business, doing business, and there was this old movie of Amitabh Bachchan. I think it was Kali Charan. I forget the name. Sorry, I wait. I forget the name. There's old where he's a very nice simpleton village boy, but he gets entangled in some case, and they throw him in the prison where there are all these hardcore criminals. And then when he comes out of the prison, he becomes a hardcore criminal. So I think my corporate life has hardened me so much that I honestly find the stand-up comedy part of it very, very, I would not say simple, but it's like I've been through a lot of those processes, a lot of those things. So there have been challenges, not really some very hard moments or things like that. Like I remember, yeah, for example, I like you sometimes at gigs you have issues. Like I remember once I did this corporate show in New Delhi uh, around 3-4 years back. And usually, what happens before any show, we have a briefing with the client that what is the audience, what can I say, what can I not say. But this was one of the shows where the event guy said, no, no, sir, it's okay. It's a very easy show. You just come up. And I was busy traveling. So I landed at around 4 o'clock in Delhi for the show. And the event was at 7 o'clock and didn't get a proper briefing. So as soon as I reached the venue, I saw that like half an hour before that, it was a Southeast Asia conference. So there were people from China, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, that part of the region, Singapore, Hong Kong. And most of them didn't speak English. So
Wow.
I asked them that y'all had a conference in the morning. How did y'all communicate with them? He said, no, during that time we had the interpreters, the translators were there. I said, where are they now? He said, no, now the business partners over, they've gone back. Like, higher. I said, then how will these guys understand English? then they started looking at you. They're using, yeah, you're right. I said, it was better than me. You should have had a Bharatanatyam dancer or a Kathakali dancer, showed them some Indian culture rather than
Yeah.
getting a comedian, you know. And so there were, I think the room was around 150 people, out of which just 30, 40 were Indians. Rest people, other than obviously Hong Kong and Singapore, who understood English. Rest of the people, like, they were wondering who the hell is this guy? What is he speaking? And that was one of the, I would say, the very challenging shows, which after a long time, I was sweating that what the hell, how will I really communicate with him? And what happened, the Indians, just because they were Indians were the host, they sat behind of the room, and the front row was just full of these guys who didn't understand English. So we have these challenges also, and these challenges, sort of come every day. In every show, you have some kind of the other challenges, and as comedians, it's a learning process. We learn how to overcome these challenges. Yeah.
So I need to know the answer to the question. So how did you overcome that
So
challenge?
I started interacting with them,
Okay.
very
All right.
simple. Then
Hmm.
people who understood English, like I was interacting a lot with the lady from Singapore and Hong Kong. There were just one, two people from these
Yeah.
countries, and I basically made fun of this fact that why the hell did you all call me? You
Yeah.
know, when you all don't
Yeah.
understand me,
Yeah. Made
So
the
yeah,
best of the situation.
absolutely,
Exactly what
absolutely.
you
And honestly, when you say the truth on stage, it really helps. When crowd actually laugh, "Yeah, this we can see this guy struggling and he's acknowledging it."
Yeah. And that's probably like the one mutual point that everybody will relate to, right? Because they're all in the
Absolutely.
situation and they're there. So when that's what I think about comedy as well. It's so much easier to say something, every person in the room has experience for sure, as opposed to taking a chance with, an orthodox situation that some people just might not understand.
Absolutely.
So
The comedy
definitely.
has to be relatable where when the comedians are on stage and
Hmm.
there are people from across different backgrounds sitting on there and they all relate and say, hey, this also happens to me. And
Yeah.
that's where the fun
Yes.
part. Like you're in Hong Kong, you related a lot to that 18-year-old, the child turning 18. Even though you're in Hong Kong, I'm in Mumbai.
Exactly.
But yeah, those things connect. And some things you'll see across cultures. Like even an American parent would have the same issue when his 13-year-old, 14-year-old daughter says, Papa, at 12 o'clock in the night, I have to go to my, drive 30 miles to wish my best friend 12 o'clock. So I
Yeah.
think a birthday wishes. So yeah, I think
Yes.
that relates everywhere. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think speaking of, our kind of generation, nowadays Reels and Clubhouse are huge. And many people actually use it as their main avenue for comedy and entertainment. So I'd love to take, your take on whether you think this makes it easier for people to make it big in comedy now. Because I'm sure before these platforms didn't exist and you really had to build your own ground, find those gigs, show up there, do a good job, and then hope that you get a call back. So how is it different? And do you think it's, very advantageous?
So you see, you have to use all these platforms as a marketing platform, not as your crux, not as your main tool. Because today you have Reel. Like today, in some a few months back, there was I think last month there was this big thing where most of these online platforms, the government had a rule that if you don't comply with us, we may shut you down. Like for example, what happened with TikTok in India.
Yeah.
TikTok at one time was the biggest app. Coming up with millions of videos every day from India, and one day India decided to ban TikTok and TikTok shut. And there were a lot of people who had formed their career making a lot of money making those TikTok videos. And
Mhm.
suddenly they became out of work. In fact, there were articles how each of these people each of these TikTokers used to make in the thousands of rupees every month, and suddenly they lost their their thing. So it's very important for everybody for to have an online an offline sorry an offline version of you also. Like for us as a stand-up comedian, tomorrow if Instagram shuts down, any of these platforms shut down, we still have the live platform where we can go and perform and entertain people. So, or if so suppose you're a makeup influencer, a girl who does makeup and does influencing, it is very good to have these platforms. Use them very effectively to sell your art form. But at the end of it, you have to be a good makeup artist as well, doing makeup for bridal and for fashion shoots and things like that. So your entire life can just not revolve around the platforms, because finally they are platforms. Today one is working, like at one time Snapchat was huge in India. Today people just use it for texting because of that disappear function. But as far as putting up a pictures and all, people have just gradually shifted to Instagram, and Instagram is giving you so many platforms today, right from Reels to IGTV to stories to posts. Just imagine an Instagram itself is giving you 4 5 different, I would say, medium
Yeah.
to try out whatever you want. You want to put up a long format, do IGTV. You want to put a 1 minute, put an IG. You want to put
Mm.
15 seconds, 30 seconds. They're giving you so many alternatives. So use it. Like I am very active on Clubhouse. Like I just use it like half an hour, 45 minutes every day in the evening. I don't go for all the shoot my shot and all that. I don't.
Tinder.
But yeah, but I found like I've attended some very interesting conversations on cryptocurrency. Sometimes they get
Definitely.
these they get these very big Bollywood writers and stars. We could just hear them. To use it effectively. Don't use it as your main crux to for your performance. That's what I mean to say.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
I think a great example is me myself. So there was a time where Snapchat was the end all be all for me. If you see my Snap score, at one point it was a little worrying because to get to that Snap score, it means you're on Snapchat for many hours a day. And streaks were a thing. Every single day you send a photo of a blank canvas just so that, oh, that number increases by one. So, this concept is definitely there. And if you look at my Snapchat now, the only reason I still have it on my phone is so I can see my memories, because there must have been photos I take, 1-2 years ago. And now I'll be like, oh, yes, this happened on this day. But other than that, you're right. Like these are very touch and go points. 1 minute they're very hot and they're in, but the other moment they might not be. And
Correct.
I think
Definitely.
as a generation that's highly dependent on, these media, I think it's important for all of us to realize that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So most of our listeners are from Hong Kong. And what was your experience at Hong Kong Comedy Festival in 2014? Like,
Oh, wow, it was actually very good. So Hong Kong has a very good comedy club at Soho. It's called the sorry, forget. My God, I just blanked on this card. It's Jamie's club. It's called Takeout Comedy Club. Sorry, it's called Takeout Comedy Club, and it's very, very well managed, very, very professionally run by Jamie, who's been into comedy for I don't know, decades. So he
mhm,
has got, and some of the best artists in the world have performed in that. It's a very nice underground comedy club. Actually, it's underground. So there's a
Yeah.
7-Eleven underneath. You take a thing and you go down, and it's a beautiful room. It can take around, I think, 100, 200 people, and it's I'm generally telling you it's one of the best professionally run comedy clubs in the world. It's so tightly run, and so it was a pleasure performing there. And I was that time, and that's what Jamie did. I was the first official Indian to perform there. And Jamie's very cool. Like for example, he's like very old school. I like that about him because I'm also old school. Like for example, just to let you know some trivia, to participate in that comedy festival, there was a form. He
Mhm.
sent a Word document. So I filled up online and I sent it to him via email. He says, no, 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 it doesn't work. You have to print it out, sign it, and post it to me. I said, seriously, Jamie? He's saying, yes, you have to post it. That means how serious you are about comedy. So I actually did that, posted it. Must have reached him after 7 days, 10 days.
Wow.
But, and he had uh, like a audition round also. So fortunately, I was in Hong Kong that same period for a corporate show. So
Oh.
I went and auditioned over there. I did a spot there. He liked me, and then only he invited me and said, "Okay, you can come for
Mhm.
the festival." And it was very, very nice. And generally, about Hong Kong, I love the buzz of the city. My God, what a beautiful buzz it has! Yeah, it's like I compare it a lot with Mumbai because you can feel the buzz on the street, the
Mhm.
energy. Which Singapore doesn't have it. Singapore is dead. As compared, it's very, very
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
laid
Agreed.
back. Yeah, and like the nightlife, just the thing where you have two different cities across the river. Ocean or river. What is it? Is a river,
No,
Anushka?
it's actually a lot more than a river.
Yeah,
There's the sea.
it's a basically the sea. Two
Yeah,
different. The old the Kowloon side and then the new
exactly. The new
side, the city,
territories. Yep.
the new territories is beautiful,
Yeah.
and I just love it. And I've come to Hong Kong after that for many shows. Like I've done public shows, and it has been honestly one of my best audiences. Like I remember the first time I came with a public show, I think in 2016 or 2017, and we thought we'll sell around 200 tickets. So we were
Mhm.
conservative. So we announced a show of 200 people that got sold out. Then we
Mhm.
added one more show of another 200 people. Even that got sold out. Then we added one third show of 200 people. So we did 600 people, three shows. And
Yeah.
so coming back, so yeah, we sold three shows in Hong Kong, all sold out. So it was beautiful. And I think before the pandemic, also in 2019, also I was in Hong Kong, and there we got around 1,200 people. It was one of the very good auditoriums in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong really has been a very, very warm audience. They really accept me, they like me, and I similarly reciprocate. I just love Hong Kong, and I made so many friends. in this last 3-4 years in Hong Kong. Like they have taken me to such, a hole in the wall restaurants in LKF and so a
Yeah.
lot of other places.
Yeah.
And the food in Hong Kong is just, and in fact, I'm not just because you're there, but one of my thing is once this travel opens up, where the rest of the people will run to Europe and America and all this, I'm going to run to Hong Kong. Yeah.
Please. Yeah. I mean, right now, Hong Kong's a little intense. It's 21-day quarantine. So that's a little sad. But other than that, when that's lifted, please, yeah. And it's funny because the shows that you're talking about, my dad went with his friend. So when I was telling him, guess who I have as my guest, he was like, there's no way because I attended so many of his shows. I'm
Oh,
sure he
lovely.
was one of those enthu people who must have gone to all 3 shows that you had with his friends because their group likes to do this. And it's a very Hong Kong thing. A lot of these friends, they like to get together, especially on the weekend after a long week of work. They'll
Yeah.
look for a nice relaxing way out, and comedy is the perfect getaway. So
Yeah. And I remember
yeah.
after the show, we had an after party somewhere in LKF, and
Yeah.
I feel 90% of the crowd was there. Like not
Yeah.
at the same club, but they were all around there, all
Yeah.
partying, enjoying. So it was
Exactly.
very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Hong Kong vibe. So with that, we'll come on to a segment that we like to call the spill the tea segment. So of course, we're young and everybody likes, quick rapid fire answers. So we came up with a series of fun, wacky questions, and you'll
Sure.
have to try and answer them as quickly as you can. Sounds
Go
good?
for it. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Bro.
So I'll start with the first one. Reels or tweets, your preferred mode of entertainment?
Reels, definitely. Tweets are very toxic.
Justin Bieber or Kangana Ranaut's statements? Which do you like? Which do you
Justin
dislike
Bieber.
most?
Justin Bieber. I like Justin Bieber more than Kangana Ranaut.
Gotcha. And what's your favorite drink to make? So yes, we did read about your bartending talent. And what's your favorite drink to consume?
So what I like to do is I like to have gin, a tonic, and Angostura bitters. They are bitters which make the drink. I like my drink to be nice and bitter. Other one which I like is basically Campari with lime. Yeah, that's it. And with soda. That's a favorite of mine. Basically,
And
I
do
like
you,
my drinks a little bitter. I don't like them very
yeah.
sweet.
And do you make them yourselves?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh,
Or if the
Great.
or if the bartender can make it, then very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So, what is one of the craziest questions you have been asked in a Q&A show?
They ask me question like, sir, I mean, see, I hate it. I mean, sorry, it's been a long answer. I hate it when people don't know anything about stand-up comedy and they come and ask you questions about stand-up comedy. So they know they're going to an interview as stand-up comedian, but they don't come with anything, and they'll ask you questions like, sir, isko stand-up comedy क्यों बोलते हैं? You know, इसको sit down comedy क्यों? Like they ask a silly question. Come on, yeah, please, yeah. You're with such an established newspaper. Come on, do your research and you come. I think that's really when people don't know anything about the art form. Forget me, you don't know about me. That's I accept it, but
Mhm.
at least know the art form, no? So I think that's very important.
The
Definitely.
craft, for sure.
Yes.
And even when we reached out to you, mentioned rightly, a lot of whether that's podcasts or media coverage, they tend to ask the same questions again and again. It'll be different variation of the same point, and like you said, as an audience, you listen to it again and again. Sure, it's a different way of asking the question, but at the end of the day, the crux
The
is the
answers are the
same.
same. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why a huge reason why we wanted to create something like this is to focus on a completely different demographic. Nobody unfortunately thinks about us young people trying to read about these people. No one wants to read those long articles with all these words. So we want that jazzed up quick answers, know this person as soon as possible, like you said, speed dating. It's not shoot your shot on
Shoot your
Clubhouse,
shot. Yeah.
but the concept is pretty similar. So we wanted to bring that, and I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast hopefully has enjoyed this format of that and gone to know you much better. Unfortunately, I know we asked for a little bit of your time, and this is all the time we have. All good things have to come to an end, but we're so thankful
Yes.
for your time. We really enjoyed speaking to you, and getting to see the behind the scenes of Atul Khatri out of a show persona. But I see why everyone loves hearing you speak, because there's a flair, like you said, with comedians. There's a flair in every way they say something, the way they approach the situation, an object even for that matter. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anushka. Thank you, Anupam.
Thank you so much.
Wherever you are, stay safe, stay mentally positive. Yeah. Take care.
Same to you. Thank you so much. Let us
Thank you
just
so
stop.
much.
Bye.